Italy is a European country located in southern Europe. Italy is a peninsula extending to the central Mediterranean Sea. It borders France to the west, Austria to the north, and Slovenia to the east. Some of the most common traditional ingredients found in Italian households include basil, the king of herbs, garlic, olive oil, tomatoes, cheese, especially Parmesan cheese, and rosemary, which is perfect for a slow-cooked risotto or meats. Some of the most common classic Italian dishes include pizza, pasta, arancini, which is a crisp and golden stuffed rice balls deep fried in breadcrumbs, prosciutto, which is a dry cured ham, usually served uncooked in thin slices, tiramisu, which is a coffee-flavored Italian dessert, and gelato. For breakfast, Italians usually have coffee, served in either espresso, cappuccino, macchiato, or cafe latte, with baked pastry, usually coming in the forms of biscuits and croissants. And typical lunch foods include lasagna, pizza, or pasta. And for dinner, Italians usually prefer something lighter, so different soups or risotto are common. And some of the common desserts include gelato, cannoli, which is a tube-shaped shells filled with ricotta, and panettone, which is a staple in northern Italy, and it's also very common in holidays like Easter and Christmas.
As of 2020, both Italy and Canada have published food guides that are available to access online. In comparing the two, we can see that Canada's food guide includes a visual representation that Canadians can easily reference. The visual of the ideal plate includes simplified instructions that can be easily understood and replicated. It comes in a format that one could easily print and post on their fridge. In contrast, Italy has yet to provide a visual representation. Their website states that one is in the works and will be published potentially sometime this year. Another difference between the food guides is when each country originally began to value and publish food guides. The Canadian Food Guide was first published in 1942, while Italy waited and published their first food guide in 1986, over 40 years later. Italy's latest food guide in 2018 has 5 food groups. Canada's latest food guide of 2019 has been simplified into 3 food groups. As David will explain shortly, this is different from how Canada's food guides have been structured in the past. Lastly, both the Canadian and the Italian food guides include references to the importance of sustainable eating practices. In the Italian food guide specifically, the concept of healthy nutrition overall is described as a protection from chronic degenerative diseases, promotion of health and longevity, social and environmental sustainability, and an overall better quality of life.
Canada's most recent food guide was released in 2019 and saw a radical departure from the format of previous food guides. Historically, Canada's food guide was categorized into 4 discrete categories: milk and milk products, meat, fish, and poultry, breads and cereals, and fruits and vegetables. In each of these categories, a specific recommended number of servings per day was provided. However, the fundamental change in 2019 would make it very difficult to compare our food guide with Italy's latest release in 2018. In the Linee Guida, foods are still divided into discrete categories which roughly correspond to the 2007 edition of Canada's food guide: cereals and derivatives, fruits and vegetables, milk and derivatives, meat, fish, and legumes. However, the Italian guide does have an additional category: seasoning fats. It is in this last category that such products as olive oil, vegetable oil, butters, and lard would be found. As we can see here, each distinct category is then further subdivided into subsections before specific items, serving sizes, and daily or weekly consumption totals are provided.
When looking at the strengths and weaknesses within the typical Italian diet, it is important to note the differences in northern Italy versus southern Italy. When we examine the diet that is common amongst those living in southern Italy, there are only really strengths. This diet, also referred to as the Mediterranean diet, has been replicated and studied due to its positive health benefits. Their diet consists of high volume of vegetables and fruits, lean protein such as fish, nuts, whole grains, and the staple olive oil. The portion sizes tend to be smaller than North American, and it is based around using whole foods rather than processed. It is not hard to see why this diet has proven to provide health benefits. It's high in fiber, lean protein, and heart-healthy fat. The weaknesses can be seen more prevalently in the Northern Italian diet. This is a result of large amounts of the population adapting or changing their traditional diet to one more similar to North Americans. An increase in the consumption of processed foods, which tend to be higher in sugar and saturated fat, has led to health problems such as diabetes, low blood pressure, and heart disease.
In 2013, Toronto Life magazine published a story highlighting 5 of the best establishments in Toronto that provide authentic Italian food. Although Toronto's Little Italy community is based on college between Bathurst and Ossington and Dundas and Harvard, these 5 locations span throughout the GTA, extending as far north as Lawrence and the Allen and as far east as the Danforth in Greektown.
Restaurants in Toronto where you can find Italian cuisine. However, some are more authentic than others. A few restaurants in Toronto I have found with pretty authentic Italian are Trattoria Nervosa at 75 Yorkville Avenue, L'Amelia on 12 Amelia Street, and Cafe Oro di Napoli at 75 Jarvis Street, just down the road from our school. You can also find specialty foods from Italy at a number of places in Toronto. With the opening of Italy, we now have a huge venue right downtown where you can find these specialty Italian foods.
In conclusion, what we learned from the Italian diet is how big food is a part of their culture, as well as how their diet focuses on whole, sustainable ingredients such as seafood, lots of vegetables, whole meats, and grains. And then how their diet also leads to them living longer. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation.